God of Slaughter, Chapter 804. After Feng Rao finished speaking, Shi Yan pondered for a long time. A new star area that people haven't exploited. This news shook Shi Yan hard. He was so thrilled that he shivered. He left the Grace mainland to find an exit for his family and friends. A life star could fulfill his wish. He used to think that this wish of his would take a long time to accomplish. But now, the secrets of the star map that Feng Rao had shared with him had given him a new train of thought. Around 10 life stars and even a level 7-1, divine crystal mines, countless herbs and spiritual grass. Any force of the raging flame star area that claimed this new star area could receive a massive resource. Whether it was the Dark Firmament Divine Nation, the Underworld League, or the 9-Star Chamber of Commerce, whoever gained control of the new star area could suppress the other two. Within a couple of 100 years, it could become the ultimate overlord of the raging flame star area. Having no real land to base was the reason why Feng Ke and the space pirates were weaker than the Dark Firmament Divine Nation, the Underworld League, and the 9-Star Chamber of Commerce. There was no life star with earth and heaven energy around the land of God punishment and where the dangers were arranged in layers. This place gathered villains and escapees who had no place to hide. If Feng Ke could claim the new star area, he would become a new powerful force of the raging flame star area that would be able to compete with the other three forces. If Shi Yan could get the new star area, not only he could solve the problem of the Grace mainland, he would also have the power to lay his eyes on the strongest forces of the raging flame star area. At that time, even though the owner of the Dark Firmament Divine Nation was Du Tianji, even the Underworld League and the 9-Star Chamber of Commerce found it hard to bind him. When he could have time to grow, he could also become an overlord of a region in the raging flame star area. Shi Yan was thrilled listening to the secrets that Feng Rao disclosed. However, he couldn't explore a new star area alone. Since that area stayed between the land of God punishment and the 9-Star Chamber of Commerce, it wasn't going to be easy to approach. Excellent. Thank you for sharing the information. Contemplating for a while, Shi Yan stood up with a cold visage. He lifted his head to look at the immense starry sea in front of him. The flame of lofty aspiration emanated inside him. I will claim that new star area at any cost. Even if you can find that place, what you can do. Feng Rao looked at him mockingly. You only? A first sky of King God Realm warrior? Under the scrutinizing looks from the crowd of experts, are you sure you can grab it? I can't at the moment. But it doesn't mean that I won't be able to do such a thing in the future. Shi Yan grinned, not bothered by her ridicule. I'm still young. I still have time to do this. Just as you said, the star area over there has many people keeping an eye on it. No one can get in now. I got the star map. As soon as I've accumulate enough power with this star map, what would be impossible for me to accomplish? Accumulate energy? Is it that easy? Feng Rao snorted. There are many warriors at the King God Realm in the raging flame star area, and warriors at the original God Realm aren't rare. You've just entered the threshold, boy. Do you think that they are all fools who you can influence? Haha, what do you mean? Shi Yan smiled, staring at her. In fact, we can cooperate. Feng Rao stooped. However, she understood that she had to persuade Shi Yan to get access to the star area before the other three forces. Cooperate? How? Shi Yan smiled, walking toward Feng Rao. He could smell the fragrance that could be absorbed by people's hearts from her body. His hot eyes lingered on her white neck. He didn't want to hide the desire in his mind. You're Feng Kei's daughter. Haha, we've had intimate time with each other. Do you want to entice and recruit me? Feng Rao lifted up her head, her beautiful eyes sparkled a dark light. Her look locked his without being afraid. My father's an overlord of an entire region. I have the third sky of King God realm cultivation base. And you're just a warrior who doesn't have a clear origin. Am I not a suitable match for you? Shi Yan laughed evilly with some dark meanings, extending his rough hand to stroke her soft neck. He didn't bother with her rage and simply smiled. I can't reach that height. Feng Rao was infuriated. She shot up, shouting with a cold countenance. I know you won't let me off. Kill me. Don't be mad. I don't want to deny you. Shi Yan laughed shamelessly. You are so beautiful and mesmerizing. How could I kill you? I just can't figure it out yet. We have to go there anyway. Give me more time to think, okay? While he was talking, his big hand slid down, falling on the white hill under her garment. However, his eyes were bright and clear. She saw no lust in there. Get your dirty hand off of me. Feng Rao's jade-like hand shot out a light dot that bloomed into a small vortex, wiping Shi Yan's hand away. She flew 100 meters backward, looking at him cautiously. If you dare touch me again, I won't let this slip away. Even if I have to blow my soul altar off, I won't let you bully me. Why do you need to be so heartless? You know, one day, we could be husband and wife. We were so close, you know. I'm a sentimental person. If you talk to me nicely, add a honey here and there, you know. Perhaps I will follow you. Shi Yan felt funny. Stop your sweet talk. A heartless man like you will never be bound by women. Am I correct? Feng Rao snorted. Shi Yan gazed at her, his face indifferently. He didn't explain anything, just said, we've been there for a long time. We should go. If the chasers of the divine nation come here, we're both in big trouble. Feng Rao didn't answer, still looking at him with hostility. The resentment in her heart remained. There was nothing to clean here. Shi Yan navigated the correct direction before flying out of the meteorite. He turned his head to signal Feng Rao to follow him, heading to the place of the land of God punishment and the 9-star chamber of commerce. Time flies fast. Half a month passed. Shi Yan and Feng Rao had soon left the territory of the dark firmament divine nation, approaching the peripheral area of the 9-star chamber of commerce. They had passed by some life stars, where some small forces of the raging flame star area dwelled. They were the subordinates of the 9-star chamber of commerce. The two of them were afraid of raising the attention from the three forces. While traveling, they tried their best to travel through the remote areas. They didn't dare come close to any life star. They had flown like that for a long time. However, the distance to the land of God punishment and the 9-star chamber of commerce was still pretty far. While moving, Shi Yan had confined Feng Rao's power, not letting her restore fully because that would have created a potential threat towards him. On this travel, Feng Rao gradually accepted her destiny. She knew that careful men like Shi Yan would never give her a chance. Thus, she stopped use the medicines and pellets anymore. Because, every time she restored her power a little bit, Shi Yan would use his vitality destructive attack to draw her life energy. If she didn't become threat to him, he wouldn't attack her. Along this journey, Shi Yan often asked Feng Rao about the situation of the land of God punishment. The more he knew about this place, the more terrified he became. He became afraid of the land of God punishment and the outer space pirates that stayed around the land. The space pirates had 10 organizations, and Bloody Slaughterer Kansas Tuo was just one of those. In the place that gathered thugs, villains, and madmen, Kansas Tuo and his pirates were just a second-class force. Besides, there were 3 more experts at the original God realm like Feng Ke. However, they had just reached the first sky of original God realm. Their competences and forces weren't as strong as Feng Ke's. Anyway, those 3 were much stronger than Bloody Slaughterer Kansas Tuo. They were the intimidating thugs that the 3 forces rejected to accommodate. They had countless lunatics as their henchmen. That area was chaotic. The strongest would be crowned a king. Murders, plunders, arsons, and battles occurred daily. The pirates constantly competed. All had made this place the most disorderly and dangerous place of the entire Raging Flame Star area. Incompetent warriors who didn't have the sufficient power to protect themselves would be gnawed to death once coming here, leaving no trace behind. Depending only on Shi Yan's power, it wasn't easy to find the location marked on that star map. It was possible for him to be skinned alive before seeing his target. Today, after they got exhausted, the 2 of them rested on an abandoned mineral star. They thought that they should find a war chariot. Using the energy of their bodies to fly drained them. However, they seemed to deviate from their main direction. Along this way, they saw no battleship or any war chariot of the Chamber of Commerce. The thought of using a chariot instead of walking became hard to turn into a reality. This abandoned mineral star had a small pond with clean and clear water. 5 colored rocks lay in the bottom of the lake, but they seemed useless to warriors. On this trip, Feng Rao was always tired. Every time she was able to condense a little energy, Shi Yan would heartlessly erase it instantly, which enraged her a lot. And she hadn't taken a bath for a long time. Seeing the crystal clear pond, Feng Rao became excited. She didn't wait for Shi Yan to talk, flying directly into the pond. She stayed in the water and cleaned the dirt on her body. Shi Yan lay leisurely on his side on a big rock by the pond. He cocked his head looking at the water. He beamed a faint smile but didn't leave. "I want to take a bath. Can you be a gentleman and go away?" Feng Rao lifted her head and glared at him. She stooped as if she didn't want to see him at all. "You are controlling my power. I can't do any harm to you shortly. What makes you worried then?" "I'm afraid you will contact your father discreetly." "I should be vigilant," answered Shi Yan indifferently. However, he didn't seem to move an inch. He had soon planted a beam of his soul consciousness with space energy. As long as Feng Rao's soul altar had any strange commotions, he would be informed immediately. He would never give her a chance. Feng Ke was intimidating and brutal. If he let this man locate him and come for him, even if he had had 3 lives, they weren't enough for him to get killed in the other's hands. He concluded that he must stay cautious anyway. Feng Rao was enraged, but she could only grit her teeth. She turned around and took off her clothes. She gradually revealed, little by little, her flawless white back. She slowly sank into the pond, concealing her appealing body. Shi Yan squinted, eyeing her vague, tender body inside the pond. However, his serious and cold face didn't relax either. This woman was cunning and vicious enough. If he gave her a chance to turn around, she would take it and storm over without any hesitation. Shi Yan didn't want to have any chance of some unavoidable trouble. God of Slaughter, Chapter 805. Feng Rao had no idea how she could resist Shi Yan. She couldn't make Shi Yan didn't leave. So her only option was to hide her body under the water to clean up. Since she hadn't had the chance to touch such clean water for a long time, she didn't want to let this chance slip away. The water in the pond was transparent. Even if she was hiding underwater, Shi Yan would still be able to see the heart-touching white areas of her body. He had a nice view just from staying here. He had touched her body many times. It seemed like Feng Rao had accepted her destiny. She didn't dodge anymore and simply let him watch her clean and wash. Shi Yan was lying on his side of the rock by the pond, his face cold and solemn. Then, he chuckled. He jumped into the pond, bathing just a dozen meters from Feng Rao. He looked at the starry sky above his head and relaxed. Feng Rao was startled. She thought that Shi Yan would harass her again. She was on guard. After she confirmed that Shi Yan wasn't planning to harass her, she calmed down her tense nerves. The raging flame star area and the Grace mainland seemed to be infinitely far from each other. They were so far away from each other that even if Shi Yan had used all of his immortal demon blood, he wouldn't be able to sense anything from the other side. Wandering alone in a strange area, it was hard to find a moment to relax. Looking at the sea star that seemed to never end, he couldn't help but feel homesick. It has been dozens of years since he arrived in the Grace mainland. His memories of the other world faded gradually. He had lost his parents and now, under another starry sky, he once again didn't have a family. At that moment, he was uncontrollably wild. He liked to stretch his limits and seek for pleasure. He didn't have brothers or any close relationships. Also, he didn't have anyone who we wanted to be sincere and kind to. After he had descended to the Grace mainland, he had a new identity of a completely different Shi Yan. From that moment, he had experienced the affections that a family can give. Shi Jian and the Shi family had treated him well as he was the hope of the family. They had taken care of him. He had dazzling life experiences in the Grace mainland. He felt that his life finally had a meaning and he had passions that he wanted to pursue. There were many heart-touching moments in this place that he would never forget for the rest of his life. Looking at the starry sky, the images, which were somehow both familiar and strange to him, flashed vividly in his head. A light dot appeared in the starry sea above his head. It gradually enlarged. They could vaguely see that it was a battleship, which was prominent among the star dots. It was moving quickly towards them. Shi Yan got up abruptly. He immediately moved towards Feng Rao in the pond, letting out a low shout, "A battleship!" Feng Rao was startled. She hastened to cover her charming body with another leather robe. She glared at him angrily before lifting her head to look at the sky. After Peng Jia, Han De, and Ganji died, Shi Yan took their jade tokens. A magical life energy reflected in the jade tokens. Shi Yan immediately took one of them out and held it in his hand. He relaxed his mind. Feng Rao reacted shortly. She took out her jade token to conceal her aura. Crack! The firm rock foundation of the pond exploded, revealing a deep cave. Shi Yan didn't say anything, pulling Feng Rao into the cave that was under the pond. He hauled a big rock to seal a large portion of the entrance. His cold and gloomy eyes pierced through the pond water to watch the sky. Since he hid his life energy and his god body, the warriors on that battleship would never be able to sense them unless they had the high sky of original God realm. Who could they possibly be? Shi Yan asked Feng Rao. He frowned. He wasn't familiar with the layout of the Raging Flame Star area. He didn't know which force this area belonged to and who would pass by frequently. Feng Rao knitted her bold brows. Only the battleships of the Nine-Star Chamber of Commerce travel through this area. Sometimes the space pirates would wait here to rob the Nine-Star Chamber of Commerce's battleships. Anyway, this area is relatively safe compared to other places. Battles rarely take place here. The cave Shi Yan had made wasn't big. As the two of them squeezed inside this cave, they had to stay close to each other. They could feel the body temperature of the other through their soaked clothes. Feng Rao's face was odd as she unconsciously looked where her hand was touching. She frowned and jolted to stay away from him. Shi Yan found that immediately. He just smiled, looking at her. "Where on your body haven't I touched you yet? Why are you being so polite to me?" Feng Rao hated him deeply in her heart. She clenched her jaw. Resentment sparkled in her eyes as she lowered her voice. "I swear, one day, you will pay a big price." It was all right when she said nothing, but after she finished her threat, Shi Yan chuckled evilly and leaned closer to her. Space power appeared which binded her. While she was startled, Shi Yan pulled her to his chest with one hand. Feng Rao fell into his embrace. Shi Yan smiled until his eyes squinted. "I told you, I'm soft-hearted. If you want me to cooperate with your father, the other tricks won't work. I told you that using your beauty would work. Anyway, we're intimate. Marriage would be enough to have you on my side. Ghosts buy it?" Feng Rao gritted her teeth. As she wanted to wiggle, she suddenly paled and shouted slightly, "Bloody Chief Skull Pirate! They're Russell's men. Be careful!" Shi Yan was surprised. He stopped his teasing and faced the sky. His face darkened. The battleship appeared in their sight slowly. It was 700 or 800 meters long, which was made of some strange gray wood. Blood stained everywhere on the body of this battleship. They could even see some darker spots where blood had dried and stained. Blood-dripping skulls were hung along the body of the ship. They belonged to different races with different sizes. Each skull was hung onto the battleship by a small rope. At first glance, it had several thousand skulls, which intimidated people. An eccentrically beautiful bloody skull flag swayed on the battleship. This flag seemed to have been recently soaked in fresh blood because blood was still dripping from it. Warriors standing on the battleship were watching here and there. All of them looked malicious and brutal. Ferocious light sparkled from their eyes. The bloody chief skull pirate is a mighty force of the land of God punishment. Russell is the boss. He has the first sky of original God realm. He is ranked just behind my father in the land of God punishment, said Feng Rao with a cold visage. Russell is infamous. He likes blood-dripping skulls. After he kills an expert, he would behead him to have the spoils to hang on his battleship. The bloody chief skull battleship is made from the bloody sulfur tree. The tree's material is tougher than any metals. It can conceal the auras of the voyagers. This toy is very fast and tough. Russell, the leader of the bloody chief skull pirates, was one of the space pirates based in the land of God punishment. He had the original God realm cultivation base with brute deeds. In the land of God punishment, he was one of the small numbers of warriors who could fight Feng Ke. This is his territory. Shi Yan frowned. According to you, this place doesn't have many battles taken place, does it? Yeah. Battles are rare, but it doesn't mean there will always be nothing. Feng Rao rubbed her head, talking with a headache. Russell and his bloody chief skull pirates won't leave their lair, usually. I think they have a big operation today, which is why they are coming to this place. I'm sure some battleships that transport materials are about to pass this area. Russell came here to prepare his ambush beforehand. Shi Yan got serious, embracing Feng Rao with both arms while increasing the energy in his body. He was vigilant. Once Feng Rao made strange moves, he would subdue her immediately. Feng Rao's father was Feng Ke, the true devil hero of the land of God punishment. Perhaps he would have a good relationship with Russell. When Russell knew he got Feng Rao and his whereabouts was disclosed, it would be hard to escape. You don't need to be so careful. Feng Rao felt like she got an electric shock. She blushed unnaturally, clenching her jaw. Russell doesn't get along well with my father. Everybody knows that. If he knows you are detaining me, he won't help me. And he would even facilitate you. Shi Yan smiled begrudgingly, but he didn't buy it, still hugging her tight. He whispered in her ear, I don't care about him, just watch now. Feng Rao was enraged as she knew that he just wanted to harass her. But she was at her wit's end. Cursing herself for falling into this low situation, Feng Rao hastened to gather herself together, forcing her mind to be clear. She talked with rage, let off me first. You see, I think they came here to make a base. Shi Yan didn't care about her words, pointing at the space above their head. This mineral star has been abandoned. Still, it has a lot of mines. They can hide in those mines and not build anything. Seems like Russell is going to have a big business here. I wonder who his poor target is. Of course, it's the 9-Star Chamber of Commerce. I heard that Russell and the 9-Star Chamber of Commerce have a bloody grudge. It's been so many years, and he still wants to grip the 9-Star Chamber of Commerce. I heard that he used to be a member of the 9-Star Chamber of Commerce. However, his family was eradicated and he got people chasing after him. That was why he escaped to the land of God punishment. Seeing that he wasn't going to let her free and with no way of getting out, she explained through her gritted teeth, the 9-star Chamber of Commerce wants to kill him. It's been years. If the land of God punishment didn't have so many dangerous places to hide, Russell would have died already. However, now that Russell has reached the original God realm, he has the capacity to resist the 9-star Chamber of Commerce. Lately, he's become the mad dog that keeps gazing at the 9-star Chamber of Commerce. I think it's not an exception this time either. Haha, I feel like I have more eyes having you here. It will be much easier traveling in the land of God punishment with you then. Shi Yan smiled. His big mouth caressed Feng Rao's earlobe. Feng Rao jolted as if she got an electric shock. Her plump body shivered uncontrollably. Her white skin reddened. Shi Yan just smiled. Behind Feng Rao's neck, his eyes were as calm and cold as usual. He didn't actually want to do anything with her. Shi Yan decided to conquer this woman and make her follow him willingly. She would become one of his hands to help him claim the new star area. God of Slaughter, Chapter 806. The bloody chief skull pirates slowly approached the abandoned mineral star. Soon, a massive battleship landed on the star. This mineral star had countless caverns running all the way to the ground. Some caverns were big enough to contain 10 massive bloody chief skull battleships effortlessly. The bloody chief skull battleship landed in a gloomy cavern that was so dark that they couldn't see the bottom. Russell's pirates gathered rocks around to cover the bloody chief skull battleship. This would prevent people from seeing it from an aerial view. The wooden material used to build this battleship was unique as it could conceal life auras. The pirates just needed to stay on their ship. Within a certain distance, the other warriors wouldn't be able to use the soul consciousness to detect them. Russell apparently had a detailed plan: hide the battleship on the mineral star with all of his pirates staying inside the ship so they wouldn't be discovered by experts and battleships passing by this area, which could create an effective opportunity for ambush. Shi Yan and Feng Rao stayed in the hole under the pond, seeing the bloody chief skull pirates arrange everything. They didn't dare leave their shelter but continued watching. Seems like we need to find a place to shelter. Shi Yan had let Feng Rao go a long time ago. He frowned, contemplated before continuing. This mineral star has only one pond, which is the one we're hiding in. I can't guarantee that they won't come here for water or shower. We should move deeper underground. Feng Rao nodded in agreement with his decision. Crack crack crack. The cave where they were expanded under Shi Yan's power. Shortly after, the cave was enlarged a dozen times. However, the entrance was still small and stayed sealed by small rocks. If the pirates came and didn't check it carefully, they wouldn't find this place. Staying in the extended cave, Shi Yan was sitting 5 meters away from Feng Rao. They sat cross-legged, facing each other. Why do you want to stay here? Feng Rao was surprised and couldn't understand his intentions. You don't have a relationship with the bloody chief skull pirates or the 9-star Chamber of Commerce. Are you sure you want to interfere their business? Shaking his head, Shi Yan explained, I don't want to poke my nose in this. However, this mineral star now has so many eyes and ears to watch Russell. If we stay here and use the jade token to hide our auras, they won't find us. However, if you are persistent and want to leave, once you enter the atmosphere, I'm not sure that they won't see you. Pausing for a while, he frowned and said, "You said that Russell has the first sky of Original God Realm and that some of his troops have reached the third sky of King God Realm. If he finds us, it won't be easy for us to escape this star area alive." Feng Rao also nodded seriously. "It's true. It won't be easy. Russell isn't a nice guy. Perhaps he knows why I came to the Purgatory Star. If he knew about my whereabouts, perhaps he would come to the conclusion that I have the star map. Then, he would definitely not let us go. For the time being, we'll stay here. We don't care about what they do or will do. We shouldn't pay attention to them either. Yeah, wait until they're done with their business. Afterward, they will leave for sure. I doubt they would stay in an abandoned mineral planet for a long time," Shi Yan pondered before expressing his opinions. Feng Rao contemplated for a while. She thought that they couldn't do anything further than that, so she didn't talk more. Time flies hurriedly. 10 days had gone just like a blink of an eye. Feng Rao and Shi Yan had always secluded in the cave under the pond. They hadn't gone out once. Sometimes, they would peer through the water to see the sky and find nothing. Most of the time, they didn't talk to each other. Each of them closed their eyes and meditated. 10 days were short. It was so short that Shi Yan had just sunk into his star power Upanishad, and he hadn't had time to perceive anything yet. After he had reached the King God realm, the progression of his three powers slowed down. However, accumulating energy wasn't something hard to him, as he just needed to kill people and use his acupuncture points to filter and refine the energy to supply and maintain peak status. Shi Yan didn't need to worry about energy sources. Only if his powers Upanishad could upgrade. Then, they could help him break through to a higher realm. The battle at the other meteorite where he killed Pangjia and swallowed Ganji's soul altar had helped his god soul, making the seals of Upanishad crystal clear. He could see the sign of the bottleneck. Shi Yan wanted to seize all chances to strengthen his powers Upanishad, which would be his door to the new realm. This time, he didn't restrain Feng Rao. After 10 days, Feng Rao had restored 30% of her full energy. Now she had half of the strength she would have had in her peak condition. Usually, at this moment, Shi Yan would do something to reduce her energy, dragging her competence down to 20% or 30%, which ensured that she wouldn't become a threat to him. Feng Rao understood him well. After 10 days had passed, she woke up and opened her bright eyes, watching him in silence as if she was waiting for him to attack her. Opening his eyes, Shi Yan smiled brightly, talking deliberately. "Our situation is a bit different now. I won't restrain you this time. Yeah. You can restore half of your powers. If something unexpected happens, you can defend yourself." Feng Rao quietly exhaled in relief. She put on a faint smile. "Seems that you're not as vicious as I thought. If you attack me in this given circumstance, you would truly be an asshole." Smiling, Shi Yan didn't care about her ridicule. "You're Feng Kei's daughter. I want to ask something. Besides you, how many children does your father has?" "I have 2 brothers," Feng Rao frowned, contemplating for a while before explaining, "from different mothers." Shi Yan smiled. Does your father love you? In his eyes, who is more important? Feng Rao put on a cold visage, snorted, but didn't answer. I understand, Shi Yan nodded. If you are more important than your two brothers, you wouldn't have to go to the extreme purgatory field. No wonder. In the raging flame star area, daughters aren't more favored than the sons. Feng Rao was enraged, her face cold. What is it that you truly wish to say? I want to say that even if you can return to the land of God punishment, it would be impossible for you to inherit your father's forces one day. Perhaps, your two brothers will kill you. It would be better to follow me then, said Shi Yan with his thick-skinned face. Follow you? Feng Rao was surprised. She immediately panted in anger. What do you have? What are you to me? Me, follow you? If you don't have the star map, you have nothing. Just who do you think you are? You're just at the first sky of King God realm. You can't even defeat me. What can you offer me? Ridiculous. She was a woman with great ambitions. She had planned carefully, otherwise, she wouldn't have got into the purgatory star and stayed there alone for several hundred years. If there was a man who was stronger than her in many aspects, a man who could offer her powers and pleasures, perhaps she would submit herself to him and serve him well with all her heart. However, Shi Yan's powers at this moment weren't excellent. They weren't enough to convince her but to make her laugh. It is true that I can't offer you anything now, said Shi Yan with a solemn face. But it doesn't mean that it will be the same later. Although this raging flame star area is vast, it can't hold me. Sooner or later, I will surpass everyone else. If you follow me today, you can have all that belongs to me in the future. Well, wait until you can prove that. When you do, come back and talk to me again, snorted Feng Rao disdainfully. Apparently, she wasn't going to give in so easily. Shi Yan smiled and said nothing else. He understood that it wasn't easy to conquer this woman. He had time. He believed that if this woman stayed with him a little longer, she would gradually change her mind. Maybe one day. Although the raging flame star area was vast, Shi Yan didn't have a good background. Even if he wanted to do something, he didn't have the means to do anything. Without subordinates, how could he be an overlord of a region? In his eyes, Feng Rao was cunning and wicked. She had many accomplishments. If he could gain her favors, his beginning would be smoother. Zai Yao was a princess of the Dark Firmament Divine Nation. She would absolutely not risk her life for him. Forces of the Dark Firmament Divine Nation were still fighting against each other discreetly. If he wanted to ask for Zai Yao's favor without a sufficient force, people would look down on him. A ship is coming. Feng Rao suddenly let out a low shout. She came close to the cave entrance to peer at the sky out there. Her face slightly changed. Shi Yan stopped thinking about the future, walking to the crack he left open at the cave entrance. Standing next to Feng Rao and taking in the tender aroma of her body, he got distracted, his mind disoriented. He thought that if he could subdue this woman, perhaps his scheme of the new star area would be very convenient. A massive vessel with the 9-star Chamber of Commerce's symbol was moving slowly in the dark sky. It became bigger in their vision as it came closer to the abandoned mineral star. The crest of the 9-star Chamber of Commerce. The incomers should be members of the 9-star Chamber of Commerce. Since this ship was huge, it was probably carrying a lot of materials. A flow of soul consciousness was released together with space power, making this flow sway between folds of space, stealthily moving toward the battleship. Shi Yan knew that with space power, his beam of soul consciousness would be hard to catch while its sensibility was enhanced. However, his soul consciousness fell into that big ship like a rock sinking into the ocean. It seemed like it was disrupted by an unknown force. Shi Yan couldn't feel anything. Shi Yan's face changed to be more solemn. That ship of the 9-star Chamber of Commerce can distract space power? How is it so dangerous? Never heard about that. Feng Rao shook her head in surprise. There's no battleship in the raging flame star area that can blind space power. It's impossible. When my soul consciousness came close to that big ship, I lost the connection. I found nothing. Shi Yan frowned, talking in a low voice. Your soul consciousness is created by space energy. Feng Rao was a little frightened. Shi Yan nodded. The ship carries something special. Feng Rao contemplated for a while. With her broad knowledge, her eyes suddenly brightened. The empty fantasy crystal. Only the empty fantasy crystal can produce such an effect. Empty fantasy crystal. Yeah. It is the main material used to create fantasy sky rings. It is also the main material to build space formations. It's a dozen times precious than the ethereal crystal. They say that if we utilized the empty fantasy crystal more efficiently, we would be able to create space passages connecting different star areas. Of course, we need the experts who have space energy to use the God Soul to control the formation, explained Feng Rao. Shi Yan's eyes brightened, shaken by this new information. I want it. God of Slaughter, Chapter 807. Chapter 807, Take a part in Translator, and NBSP, Sigma _ and NBSP, Editor, and NBSP, since the empty fantasy crystal could connect different star areas through the creation of space passages. Nothing else was more useful than this. After he arrived in the raging flame star area, he kept in mind that he had to bring his family and friends from the Grace mainland to this place. In order to fulfill this wish, he had to continue developing his understanding of space power. The empty fantasy crystal was a light that illuminated his soul. Shi Yan couldn't and number 39, contain himself anymore. End quote. Do you want it? What will you do for me then? End quote. Feng Rao beamed a forced smile. End quote. The empty fantasy crystal is so precious in the raging flame star area. Even 100 pieces of top quality divine crystal wooden and number 39, be worth one empty fantasy crystal. If this ship does have that crystal, it will be the most precious material on there. How will you get it? End quote. And NBSP, after a slight pause, Feng Rao continued to stir him up. End quote. The 9-star Chamber of Commerce is one of the 3 strongest forces. Do you think it will be easy to deal with Russell and number 39's forces? There is no need to even mention the 9-star Chamber of Commerce. Russell and number 39's bloody chief skull also wants this ship. Do you have a death wish? How dare you think about robbing him, end quote. I must have it, end quote. Shi Yan snorted with a cold face. End quote. If you want to die, Don and number 39, drag me with you. I Don and number 39, care about your disgusting business anymore, end quote. Feng Rao shook her head. Since her advice seemed to be in vain, she didn't and number 39, talk more. Shi Yan was not concerned about this. He concentrated, looking at the battleship of the 9-star Chamber of Commerce, and tried to plan for this. That battleship approached the abandoned mineral star. It was close enough now to see people walking to and fro on the battleship like a colony of ants. Boom! A significant tremor boomed from the mineral star that sounded like the earth was roaring ear-piercingly. End quote. Russell is starting to move, end quote, Feng Rao shouted slightly. As she finished talking, war chariots soared into the sky from the caverns in the mineral star, one by one. A strident voice echoed, end quote, Fan Ye, your grandpa is here to take your life, end quote. Wild and surging earth energy burst out. Countless mountains exploded on the mineral star, creating a chaotic stream of rocks hurling towards the big ship of the 9-star Chamber of Commerce. The biggest rock was as large as a 100-meter-tall mountain, flying with tremendous momentum, harsh and crazy. End quote. It and number 39, Russell, end quote. Feng Rao was frightened, end quote. He comes here himself, end quote. Who and number 39, Fan Ye, end quote. Shi Yan asked in a low voice, his face serious. End quote. He and number 39, Fan Tian and number 39, brother. The Fan family is the pillar of the 9-star Chamber of Commerce. It and number 39, the biggest clan with mighty forces. He is very tough to deal with. Fan Ye has the first sky of the original God realm. It will be a fierce fight, end quote. The 9-star Chamber of Commerce consisted of different families. It was a league of families, and the Fans were the biggest family of them all, the main pillar of the Chamber of Commerce. Fan Tian was the current president of the chamber. His voice held great influence and power. He was a character at the same level as the hegemon of the Underworld League and Du Tianji of the Dark Firmament Divine Nation. There were many experts of the Fan family as there were clouds. Besides Fan Tianpio, the dazzling star of the new generation, their previous generations were all excellent experts. Fan Ye was one of the strongest warriors of the previous generation of the Fan family. He was in charge of logistics operation of the chamber. He was also a powerful character in the Raging Flame Star area. End quote. Seems like the ship is transporting something that goes beyond monetary value. If Fan Ye was escorting it and Russell coming himself to steal it, end quote, Feng Rao commented. End quote. It and number 39, likely that they have the empty fantasy crystal. That is why Fan Ye is escorting it personally. Shi Yan, Don and number 39, act rashly. Otherwise, you will die unknowingly, end quote. Both Russell and Fan Ye were at the first sky of original God realm. Either of them could kill Shi Yan easily. They also had many King God realm warriors, including the third sky of King God realm ones. Joining this battle was N and number 39, a wise move. Shi Yan contemplated for a while. He frowned and then asked suddenly, end quote, Is it easy to get the empty fantasy crystal in the raging flame star area? Feng Rao was startled. She mused on it before shaking her head. Not easy at all. The empty fantasy crystal is generated in a twisted space of the Underworld League. The production rate is too small to even produce one in 100 years. It and number 39, s rare even in the auction house of our land of God punishment. If I miss it this time, could I have another opportunity to get the empty fantasy crystal later? Like, maybe within 10 years. Feng Rao shook her head. All right then, I know what to do, said Shi Yan with resolve. I must take this risk. Even if I may lose my life, the empty fantasy crystal will be worth it. What do you want to do? Feng Rao had a headache. Only the top-grade blacksmith could use the empty fantasy crystal to build the fantasy sky ring or the magical space formation to connect spaces. Only the three forces could do that with the main planet. You and number 39, re just a small warrior. Aaron and number 39, tu overthinking this. She didn't and number 39, know that Shi Yan had arrived in the raging flame star area for just 10 years or the burdens he was bearing, so she couldn't and number 39, understand why he was so persistent. While they were talking, the pirates riding on the war chariots were storming furiously towards the battleship of the 9-star Chamber of Commerce. Russell and number 39, S. Wrath of Earth Power Upanishad was urged. Pieces of rock and soil fluttered like a meteor shower that bombarded the big battleship. Instantly, a tricolor halo bloomed from the ship, creating a magical cage covering it entirely. No matter how much they tried, the big ship couldn't and number 39, endure Russell and number 39, S power, trembling hard under the heavy rock shelling. Russell, do you have a death wish? A lanky figure appeared on the deck of the ship. We thought it would be okay to forgive you and not eradicate your family. You coward! If you want to rebel against our family, did you think that we wouldn't and number 39, harm you? That and number 39, fan yeah, Feng Rao lowered her voice then explained. Seems like Russell and the fans have a lot of resentment for each other. No wonder why Russell is like a mad dog that always stares at the 9-star Chamber of Commerce. If it were me, I would pay any price to take revenge for that grudge until I die, said Shi Yan with a cold and harsh face. Boom boom boom. Pirates in the chariots urged their energies to attack the big battleship. Numerous beautiful bunches of light bloomed in the dark space. They screamed and shouted as they approached the ship. A handsome, bearded, bulky man with a terrible scar at the corner of his eye flew alone towards the big ship. He faced the sky and laughed like crazy. The fans didn't and number 39, kill me that year. That was your biggest mistake. As long as I and number 39, am alive, I will continue troubling this family. You will never know peace. Fan yeah, you killed my whole family and replaced my family in the Chamber of Commerce. Today, I will get revenge. I will give you what you deserve. This man was Russell, the leader of the bloody Chief Skull Pirates. He used the Earth Power Upanishad. Once he deployed his God domain, he could control countless meteorites in outer space, shelling the 9-star Chamber of Commerce and Number 39's battleship. Shortly after, the tricolor light barrier couldn't and Number 39's endure any longer under the unceasing attack. It shattered. Many pirates in their chariots were waiting for this moment. They landed on the big ship. The fierce battle burst out. Shi Yan and Feng Rao didn't and Number 39's hide in the cave anymore. They got to the pond, lifted their heads to watch the furious battle taking place in the clouds. They all gawked. Terrifying energy flew everywhere, flashing in the dark starry sky and exploding like beautiful fireworks. Beams of energy shot out here and there like 5-colored meteors. Different god domains appeared on the deck of the ship. For the time being, this ship couldn't and Number 39's endure such furious energies, and it started to split. It looked like it would break in any minute. When different god domains of the King God Realm warriors made contact, energy would burst out fiercely. From where they were standing, Shi Yan and Feng Rao could see many peculiar god domains, all of which were terrifying. End quote. Russell has ravaged so many materials recently to facilitate his cultivation. I heard that he and Number 39's about to break through to the second sky of original God Realm. This man is so ruthless. He also bears grudges in his heart forever. His experience is varied. Fanya cannot match him as his opponent. End quote. Feng Rao lowered her voice. End quote. Then, this will be the best. End quote. Shi Yan stood still like a mountain. End quote. It and Number 39's better for us that both of them get defeated. Jade and stone must all shatter. I just need the empty fantasy crystal. End quote. End quote. It and Number 39's not that easy. End quote. Feng Rao shook her head and sighed. End quote. Even if Russell and Fanya Don and Number 39's notice you, once you join the battle, the third sky of King God Realm warriors will see you. You won and Number 39's be able to escape. End quote. Pausing for a while, Feng Rao looked at him. End quote. But the main reason is that you can and Number 39's put the empty fantasy crystal in the fantasy sky ring. This crystal is so obvious you can and Number 39's bring it away discreetly. It and Number 39's impossible. I advise you not to dream about it anymore. End quote. Then we can seize a war chariot. End quote. Shi Yan snorted. End quote. Whether it's the pirate or the 9-star Chamber of Commerce, they have war chariots that we can use. It won and Number 39's be a problem to transport the empty fantasy crystal by war chariot. End quote. While they were talking, Shi Yan sent his soul consciousness to the center of the battle. His beam of soul consciousness moved to and fro, carefully rejecting space energy in it. His soul altar spun as he focused on sensing the movement of space. While the battle was taking place, flows of soul consciousness were everywhere. No one noticed his soul consciousness. As he had dismissed space energy in that beam, the empty fantasy crystal couldn't and Number 39's affect him anymore. As he had been cultivating space power Upanishad, he became more sensitive to space energy fluctuation. Soon, he found the location of the empty fantasy crystal. At a corner behind the big ship. Boom boom boom. Under the furious, destructive energy attack of the pirates, the 9-star Chamber of Commerce and Number 39's massive battleship split and then fragmented. Hundreds of silver fragments started to scatter. A fragment of the ship with the energy fluctuation of the empty fantasy crystal shot towards the mineral star under the gloomy sky. It shot fast like a silver meteor towards the ground. Since the ship was almost 1,000 meters long, that fragment had the size of 10 war chariots. Life energy fluctuations were reported to be found inside the fragment. Obviously, there were some experts hiding there. Shi Yan and Number 39's eyes glued to that fragment of the massive battleship. Light shone gloriously in his eyes. He paused for a while before saying to Feng Rao, "End quote, you have no business here. You can stay aside." End quote. Feng Rao was dumbstruck. End quote. I don and Number 39, T care if you don and Number 39, T think that I and Number 39, am honest. I want to tell you that you and Number 39, really beautiful. End quote. Shi Yan grinned then pulled Feng Rao, putting a kiss on her cheek. End quote. See you later. End quote. An electric light boomed. His figure disappeared immediately. His life energy fluctuation vanished. Feng Rao was perplexed. Strange surprise flashed across her beautiful eyes as she touched her cheek. After a while, she stomped her foot angrily. End quote. You want to dump me here? It won and Number 39, be that easy. End quote. She knew what she had to do. Although she couldn't and Number 39, sense Shi Yan and Number 39's aura, she knew the direction he took. Feng Rao soared up, flying in the direction Shi Yan and Number 39's eyes had gazed at. God of Slaughter, Chapter 808. While the battle was fierce, Shi Yan disappeared. He turned into a bunch of light, shooting towards the ship fragment which had the empty fantasy crystal. In the gloomy galaxy, stars twinkled and thick blood showered. Flames burned people. Shattered figures fell from the galaxy. Lives were lost. The battle between the bloody Chief Skull Pirates and the 9-star Chamber of Commerce had come to a critical moment. Russell and Fan Ye, the two first Sky of Original God Realm, had occupied the center of the arena. They were fighting each other. In this area of their battle, everything vanished. No one dared to stay in the affected area of their battle. They all stayed away as they were scared of the powerful energy attacks. Russell came well prepared. The thugs under his commands were all brutal and bloodthirsty. Most of the Fan family's warriors were hurt. They couldn't protect the materials on the ship anymore. Those pirates stayed in their war chariots. Whenever they successfully killed someone, they would gather the shining materials, stack them on their chariots and continue to scream, laugh crazily, and kill more. Many warriors of the 9-star Chamber of Commerce were torn into pieces. Their god bodies were dismembered. Some were beheaded. The pirates hung their heads on the war chariots as their spoils. Although the Fan family was powerful, they had bad luck encountering Russell at this time. They were targeted and ambushed. Their resistance became weaker. Shi Yan stormed fast. On his way, he extended his arm to pull the bodies that were falling into the Star Sea to him. He took this chance to seize the essence G of the dead, which hadn't vanished yet. Within 10 breaths, he had gathered more than 10 bodies, half of whom were in true God realm and the other half in the first sky of King God realm. He even grabbed 1 or 2 second sky of King God realm warriors. The essence G of the dead became a flood of energy swarming into his body wildly. His acupuncture points swelled painfully. White mist fumed. At first glance, smoke diffused from his entire body just like he was being burned. Swoosh swoosh. Bunches of energy light darted a dozen times more furiously than sharp arrows. Those lights shot towards the abandoned mineral star, making holes that went so deep that they couldn't see the bottom. Corpses gathered at one spot, moving under Shi Yan's energy control while he hid under them. He was about to approach the ship fragment which kept the empty fantasy crystal. It was a silver, metal block around 3 mu where 10 warriors were fighting against each other. Warriors of the 9-star Chamber of Commerce wore silver uniforms with the symbol of 9 stars on the back. The Bloody Chief Skull pirates also had the Bloody Chief Skull crest on their sleeves. At first glance, they could identify which side the warriors were on. Shi Yan appeared abruptly on that metal silver block. He immediately looked at the bottom of this ship fragment. Fine cracks appeared on this metal block. Disorderly space energy seeped out from these fine cracks. They seemed to be able to trigger the space slits. While fighting with each other, warriors of the 9-star Chamber of Commerce and the space pirates also tried to avoid coming close to those space cracks as they were afraid that the chaotic energy inside the cracks would affect them, giving the others a critical chance to kill them. As Shi Yan appeared, he drew the attention of both sides immediately. Both sides looked at him with dark, brutal looks. This man doesn't have the symbol of the 9-star Chamber of Commerce or the crest of the Bloody Chief Skull. He must be an outsider. Crack. A crisp sound echoed. Feng Rao's sexy body appeared behind Shi Yan. Her brows knitted together as she shouted slightly. Tough. This group of people had 3 second sky of King God realm, 1 from the 9-star Chamber of Commerce and 2 from the pirates' side. The others were at the first sky of King God realm. None of them had the lower realm than Shi Yan. If he fought in this battle by himself, he wouldn't have been able to do anything. Might be the others would have opportunities to kill him. Since Feng Rao had left the land of God punishment for several hundred years, many pirates had forgotten her. Russell's troopers didn't recognize her either. They just glared at her before continuing their battle. Shi Yan had spent half of his energy on this journey while Feng Rao's life magnetic was a little weaker than usual. At this moment, she didn't have the intimidating aura of a 3rd sky of King God realm warrior. The warriors just ignored her. Since Shi Yan had a 1st sky of King God realm cultivation base, the warriors just peered at him, and then got back to their fight. None of them paid attention to the 2 newcomers. Dried bodies drifted around Shi Yan. A large amount of essence Qi from the dead streamed torrentially and invisibly into Shi Yan's body. Gradually, a brutal and bloodthirsty feeling multiplied from the bottom of his heart and expanded to his entire body. The negative energy seemed to materialize. Then, it condensed, turning into immense clusters of white cloud. They gathered and the wild, chaotic energy gushed out crazily. Feng Rao's face slightly changed. Her eyes shifted from the bloodthirsty aura to Shi Yan's bearings. Since she had an idea of what was going to happen, she didn't hasten to act rashly and backed off instead. Rumble rumble. The two pirates at the second sky of King God realm had joined hands to use their god domains to suppress the warrior at the same realm of the 9-star Chamber of Commerce. They grinned fiendishly, slashing at his head. As the warrior of the 9-star Chamber of Commerce realized that the most dangerous part of the battle was about to come, he didn't hesitate, urging all of his powers to resist. Right at this moment, Shi Yan's blood-red eyes became hot. His refined body slightly shrank. The white cloud clusters hovering around him turned and flew towards both sides. Soul Burial Ground. Deploying the god domain, bloodthirsty light sparkled from his eccentric blood-red eyes. He seemed to merge with those white clouds instantly. Boom! The white clusters turned into a blood-red sea that covered the warriors. A vicious aura diffused from Shi Yan's body. Negative feelings including despair, bloodthirsty, resentment, and hatred multiplied exponentially. As Feng Rao wasn't very far away from Shi Yan, her soul altar got stagnant. Her beautiful eyes were puzzled and she felt like her god soul was eroding. She discolored in fright. The coverage of the blood sea expanded gradually, but it didn't cover her. However, even though she was standing 10 meters away from it, she still felt her god soul get dizzy and affected. She couldn't control it. Feng Rao was terrified. She jumped back, moving 100 meters away from Shi Yan, looking at that place with fright. An eccentric situation happened all of a sudden. The blood sea of the god domain covered both sides. They now all looked congested. Bloodthirsty intentions sparkled in their eyes as they completely lost their minds and attacked each other rashly. It wasn't the battle between the pirates and the 9-star Chamber of Commerce's members anymore. They fought against each other disorderly in a chaotic manner, not caring whether they were truly fighting their enemies or not. The pirates seemed to have bloody resentment against each other while the warriors of the 9-star Chamber of Commerce also attacked one another with clenched jaws. All who were covered in the blood sea of the god domain had lost their minds as if they had fallen under a slaughtering spell. Now they had only one thought in their mind: kill them all. Within several breaths, the 9-star Chamber of Commerce and the bloody Chief Skull Pirates had already taken a big loss. Half of them were killed by their own teammates. Weak warriors were dismembered. Their soul altar was also shattered. Those fragmented soul altars were attracted by some unknown force, flashing before disappearing in Shi Yan's direction. It looked like the air had swallowed them all. Standing in the middle of the blood sea was Shi Yan with his garnet eyes and ferocious visage. The cold intention was hung on the stiff corners of his mouth. He instinctively pulled and twisted, condensing the bloody aura around him and turning it into the chaotic energy that could distort people's soul. That energy then stormed into the god body of those who had already lost their minds. Those who got hit by his bloody murderous aura shouted and screamed crazily. It looked like their life potentials had been urged to the acme. Their god bodies cracked and bled. The energy was seething wildly in their bodies as their attacks became more powerful and effective. Shi Yan seemed to enjoy all of these reactions. Standing in the blood sea, he slowly closed his eyes. As if it was as simple as taking a walk around the place, he had triggered the craziest instinct of those people, making them slaughter each other. Those thugs seemed to be in a bedevilment state. They acted like they didn't see the man standing in the middle of the blood sea. They just let him mess with the whole things. Gradually, warriors were killed until there were only two people fighting with each other, the two second sky of King God realm pirates. The crazy, brutal, and resentful feelings of the warriors before they die flooded the blood sea, strengthening its ability to rise the bloodthirsty feeling from deep inside people's hearts. From 100 meters away, Feng Rao was petrified, looking at the blood sea. She felt her soul sinking. The desire to kill people surged in her heart like a mental disease. It made her want to tear all the restraint and join that battle to slaughter people. She discolored in fright, not daring to look at the blood sea any longer. After she could pull herself together, she turned and continued observing. Turning around the second time, she found no people alive in that blood sea. The last two warriors were dead, too. The pungent smell of blood stormed into his nostrils. Shi Yan, immersing in his blood sea, slowly opened his eyes. There was no beam of humanity in his eyes, only the basic nature of destruction that froze people's souls in extreme fright. At this moment, Shi Yan didn't look like a mortal creature but more like a bloodthirsty death instead, as if the meaning of his existence was to destroy all creatures. Feng Rao felt chilled. Shivers ran down her spine. She suddenly recognized that it wasn't simply luck that got him the star map. The red blood melted under the heat and refinery of the dead Upanishad. Scarlet mist entered Shi Yan's acupuncture points where it was immediately filtered and refined. The garnet eyes of his resumed their normal state. Shi Yan was dull. After a while, he took a deep breath as if he had just awakened from a terrible nightmare. He discolored in fright immediately. Even Shi Yan himself didn't know how it happened. Looking at the fragments of the bodies around him, his face was very stern, looking like he was seeing the bodies for the first time. The Blood Soul Sea, the power developed from the God domain of the Dead Power Upanishad, could urge the bloodthirsty desire in people's hearts and make them kill restlessly. Only when the negative feelings were urged completely would the Blood Soul Sea be created. It was like the dusty memories had been finally cleaned. A flow of memories appeared clearly in Shi Yan's head. In just a moment, he understood the thing called Blood Soul Sea was the power developed from the soul burial ground God domain. It was the ultimate performance of this martial technique. As he had pulled more than 10 corpses with him previously, he had poured a lot of negative feelings into his body, which had stirred up the third sky of Rampage Realm. The terrifying negative moods burst out at the same time, fusing with the soul burial ground and creating the supernatural power called Blood Soul Sea. The Blood Soul Sea made those who were covered in the God domain to lose their minds completely, making them the slaves of slaughtering. Thoughts continually crossed his mind. Shi Yan held a stiff face, forcing himself to clear his mind. He didn't dare overthink and simply grabbed the empty fantasy crystal in the ship fragment.